Hello, everyone, and welcome to Scourge of War Waterloo, Episode 7. In this video, we'll be taking a look at the Wavre expansion French Brigade scenario, Hulot attacks. And basically, this scenario takes place kind of near the end of the first day of the Battle of Wavre. And basically, for the better part of the day, the French under Grouchy have been pounding their heads against the wall, trying to get across the River Dyle and attack the Prussians and drive them off and keep them from becoming a pain in the butt at Waterloo. And they've largely not had any success. And our brigade is part of Gerards' corps, the Fourth Corps, and his corps kind of arrived late on the field, and it is now our turn to take a crack at forcing the bridge at the mill of Bierges along the River Dyle, and establishing basically what in modern military terms would be a bridgehead uh, after we can get across the bridges. Now, this is not by any means a very difficult scenario, but it can be a bit tricky, especially to newer players that don't really understand some of the limitations of the AI's pathing and how it leads units around. But not to worry, that's what I am here for, to show you how to get around such situations. So I am going to start the video here. And it says, well, let's read this first. Basically says the French Third Corps started their attack on Wavre this afternoon without success and with heavy losses. Lafol's brigade of the Third Corps has made several assaults on the bridge by the mill of Bierges, but has not been able to make a crossing, probably because he's running into problems with the pathing issues too. So don't worry, Lafol's brigade, I'm here. We're going to help you. Our brigade is the first unit of the Fourth Corps to reach the Dyle at the mill of Bierges. It is already late, and no French unit has been able to make it across the river. Again, because no French unit but us knows how to deal with the pathing issues. We need to pass it in order to press our advance on to Brussels tomorrow. Little do they know we will not be going anywhere near Brussels, will we? Okay, so our mission is clear the Bierges area of the Prussian forces and hold the location until reinforcements reach you. Okay, so basically now that we've got our mission, I'm running the video here, and this will slowly start to scroll down. And here we are, kind of west of Wavre, very strongly defended over here. So we're trying to cross kind of downriver here and establish a bridgehead to get the rest of our forces across. We have 6 battalions, but we're only going to have 3 of them at first. We're going to have the 9th line regiment, and we'll have 3 battalions there. And the 11th line will be available later on. We need 1,000 points for a major victory. And let's not worry about the biography. You guys can pause and read that if you want. So I'm going to bring the sound up a little bit so we can hear what's going on, but not too loud, so I'm drowned out. So we'll go around there. Okay, so here's our brigade commander, Alexander Baum. And here comes our courier, who's going to give us our orders for the day. Come on, little courier. Okay, it says General Van Damme's troops have been fighting hard inside Wavre since this afternoon without success. A dispatch from Marshal Soult pressed Marshal Grouchy to defeat the Prussians before us and march on Brussels. Marshal Grouchy and General Gerard want your brigade to take the river crossing here at Bierges without waiting for the arrival of the rest of the corps. Boy, they must think a lot of us if they don't want us to wait for the rest of the corps. The 9th line is sufficient for the task. Take these battalions across the river, defeat the Prussian forces facing you, and hold Bierges against any counterattacks. Sounds pretty straightforward, doesn't it? Okay. So as soon as this is done, I'll click this off. I just wanted to pause it so I actually had a chance to read it all without the video, without me closing it. Boy, did I leave myself enough time to read that, huh? Okay. So these are the first 3. battalions right here. And the first thing I'm going to advise us to do is take command of every single one of them. And it looks like they already are. So basically, we're defeating the AI. And we're going to be controlling these units all on our own. And the first thing we're going to do is set them up kind of in these trees here, just kind of in single file. We're kind of using the trees to hide here, and I will show you why in a minute here. We're going to use the column by division formation because it's a pretty compact formation. It's not spread out, and it'll enable us to kind of hide in these trees, you know, a little more effectively. And basically what we're doing is we're just hiding here. We're waiting for the Prussian artillery to deploy. And the reason we're doing that is because it must be the way the scenario is written, but the Prussian artillery always deploys in a rather weird way. And I have never been able to figure out what the hell they're shooting at. I really haven't. There's nothing where they're pointing their guns at. You know, it's like over by the town of Wavre where they're pointing all their guns, and there's nothing there but their own troops. So I have no idea what they're shooting at, but the only thing that really matters is those guns are pointed away from us, and that's what matters. So here you go. You can see the guns. I don't know what the hell. What are they shooting at? They're all pointed down there somewhere, and there's nothing there. All right. So enough with the jokes. There's our cannon, but they're not really where they're pointed for. All right, so basically what we have to do here, I'm going to pause the video and talk about this real quickly. There are some weird pathing issues in this scenario, and once you understand them and once I explain them, it's not really going to be an issue for you. And once you understand how to get around them, you'll see the scenario is probably nowhere near as difficult as it seems to be for you right now if you don't understand these pathing issues. But basically, Wavre is a restricted terrain map. The night before this battle, as you probably know if you've seen the 1970 movie Waterloo, there was a torrential downpour. And Waterloo is only a couple of miles kind of west of this, so, you know, this area. So I'm sure this area got poured on too. And as a result, the river Dyle here is basically flooded and swollen and cannot be forded or crossed by troops. They have to be crossed over these bridges. Now, this is the problem. The AI does not know it cannot cross a river until it actually tries to cross the river. So what this basically means is we have to control every aspect of these units moving. So if you try to say, do like you normally would, where, okay, the enemy's here, so we just want our units to go over here, so we want to click here and just have them go there. Well, it's not quite that simple, like it would be on an unrestricted terrain map where, say, there was no river here and there was just, you know, it was just, you know, full grassland and we could just walk right up to them. Then it wouldn't be an issue. You could just click, you know, right-click your arrow here and walk right up to the enemy. If you try to do that with this scenario, here's what's going to happen. The AI, when you take command of units and just point on a location, towns kind of mess this up, but for most open areas like this, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So the AI, if your unit is, you know, here and you want it to march here, and you just, you know, basically right-click here and want your unit to go there, the AI doesn't know this river is not crossable. It won't know it until it actually tries to get across the river. Basically, you know, if you're here and your destination is here, the freaking Himalayas could be right here, and the AI would try and climb Mount Everest. That's basically what it comes down to, is it doesn't know what it can't do until it gets to something it can't do, and then it realizes what it can't do. So invariably what happens if you try to do that is your troops will march up to the river, kind of get stuck in the river, and then kind of walk along the river or walk along the bank until they come to the bridge, and then they'll get themselves across. And, you know, that usually leads to disaster. So what you really got to do is control every aspect of your unit's movement across the river. And I'm going to show you how to do that. All right. So there's two ways you can do it. One of the ways you can do it is called Waypoint Movement. Now, I don't use Waypoint Movement in here because the timing of the scenario is, the timing of my movements is kind of carefully timed by me. Basically, what you have to do is, the first thing you have to do is take your first unit and move it right up to the bridge. And then what I'm doing is I'm moving the second unit up to where the first unit just was, and I'm going to move the third unit up to where the second unit just was to kind of keep them all moving at once. All right, now all your units are on take command at this point, so they're not going to do anything other than what you tell them to do. All right, so as soon as this unit gets to here, since that's their destination, they're just going to stop, and they're not going to do anything. Now, once they get to this point, in order to make them cross the bridge, you notice I have their flag on the bridge. Now, the flag is the unit as far as the game is concerned. So even though you may see some of these troops walking, you know, as they cross the bridge, some of them will be in the water on this side, and a few of them might be in the water on that side, especially if you have them in line formation, then it'll look really stupid. But they're not really in the water as far as the game is concerned because the flag is the unit and the flag is what's going to travel across the bridge. So as long as the flag is moving across the bridge, the game considers that your whole unit is kind of moving across the bridge, regardless of what formation they're in and regardless of whatever your sprite setting on the options is. If you have it set to 1-to-1, obviously this will look like a lot more men than it does here. And if you have it, say, set to 10-to-1, it'll look like a lot less. So troops sprites in this game are largely an abstraction. And as far as the true location of the unit, as the game is concerned, the unit's true location is the flag. So I clicked on the very beginning of the bridge, and the unit walked up to the bridge. From there, you're going to click on the end of the bridge, and the unit is just going to walk straight across. Now, when I'm done showing you all this, you guys are probably going to say, oh my god, that's so easy, and oh my god, that's so dumb, why is the game like that? I can't tell you why the game is like that, but I can tell you this is how it is. Now, we have two bridges to get across. So, though, after this, when this unit gets here, and as you can see, I'm just kind of moving this unit up to here now, and I'm moving the third unit up to where the second unit was. And I'm just kind of continually moving them. Now, once they get here, I'm going to click on the beginning of the next bridge. When this unit reaches here, I'm going to click on the end of this bridge, and so forth, and just keep kind of moving them up incrementally. This is why it's so much of a saving grace, and why we have to hide behind these trees at first to make sure this artillery is firing at God knows what it's firing at down there. I haven't got a clue. But it always does this, so you don't have to worry that the artillery firing at some weird position here is, some freak of nature that just happened in the scenario. Every time I have played the scenario, the artillery is shooting at I don't know what over there. Okay, so now this unit is going to make it to this part of the bridge, and we are going to click on the end of the bridge. Now, at this point, some of these units they're realizing what's up. So I'm double-clicking them across the bridge, because now it's time to get a move on. Now, once they're across the bridge, we're going to hang a hard right here. We have got to get these guns. This is the most important thing you do with the first unit, is charge the hell out of these guns. Because if we try and attack these infantry on the left here and face them, this artillery is going to be firing canister up our butts. That's not fun. So very important, capture the guns. Now you may get countercharged by this infantry unit here, but here they made a mistake. They actually countercharged one of the batteries I captured and instead recaptured it. And then I just recaptured it and charged them while they were trying to reform. So, I basically ran them off while they were trying to reform. Here's a pro tip too. When you're charging guns, you don't want to reform after every gun, so mash that charge button. Just repeatedly hit it over and over again. And after every successful charge, you will not have to wait to reform. You can just keep kind of charging. So yeah, pro tip, mash the charge button. So after that happens, we're going to continue moving these other units up. So the second one will now move to this bridge, the beginning of this bridge. and the third unit will be moving across the first bridge. Now, as you can see, these guys have retreated because their morale and fatigue took a big hit while making all those charges. You know, that's going to happen. We're going to have to kind of be a little reckless in this scenario, and I'll explain why once I get these other units into action. Now, this is all French artillery now. We have got these guys because when you capture artillery with infantry, you crew them and they become your guns. So now we have some French artillery here helping us out. And when we get over on the left side here, we're just going to barrel headlong into these Prussians. Vive la France! Right? And now, you kind of have to hit these units over and over again. And I'm going to explain why. You have to drive these two Prussian infantry regiments off the map, or at least out of action, before you can really take possession of the objective and set yourself up. And it's very important that you take these infantry units out of action permanently. Basically because after about 15 or 20 minutes in this scenario, the Prussians will be reinforced by some cavalry. And therein lies the hitch. If the infantry is not run off by the time the cavalry arrives, they're going to pull some combined arms BS on you, and you're really not going to have an answer to it, because you're basically going to be stuck in square and you don't have any cavalry of your own. So what you want to do is, you know, really hit this Prussian infantry like a madman. You know, you may wreck some of your units in the process, but just keep bringing them back and keep hitting them over and over again as long as you can. Until they break and run. And they will eventually break and run. Here they were actually kind of a bunch of wusses, and they actually surrendered to me. But you want to get your units across this bridge, and like I said, the way to do it is just manually click on the beginning of each bridge and then click on the end of each bridge. And then they'll walk in a straight line across the bridge. And then get these units across and just hit these infantry units as much as you can. And you basically want them to run off, rout, surrender, whatever it is they're going to do, before the Prussian cavalry comes from way back here. So that by the time the Prussian cavalry comes up, there's no more infantry, and you can safely just form square around the objective. And the cavalry can't do anything, because all they are is cavalry, and cavalry is a melee arm. You know, and if you're in square, they can't melee you, so there's basically nothing they can do at that point. So I am just repeatedly hitting these units. Now, this unit is probably charged like 2 or 3 times at this point, and that's a lot for any one unit to charge. So I'm trying to bring these units up to get them involved, because this unit is really bearing the brunt of the attack right now. Surprisingly enough, though, they're really doing a good job. You know, usually after 2 or 3 charges, a unit is pretty spent. But, I don't know, the Prussians just were not having a good day on this scenario. Just wasn't a good day for Prussia. And now I'm bringing my brigade commander, of course, across the bridges, now that everything is relatively safe. And, you know, get set to occupy the objectives here. And I'm just bringing this one infantry unit here to kind of set up a line behind the artillery. There is an infantry unit still back there. They're withdrawn, but you know, I kind of want to cover the artillery in case these guys get froggy again. You never know. Or I guess I decide, nah, you know what? Maybe I want some squares here. I must figure that these guys are out of action. Alright, so while these units have been hit pretty hard, they're still close enough on the field here that you know, I feel like they could be a threat, and I kind of really want them out of there before the cavalry. There's no sign of the cavalry yet, but believe me, they will come. Now, I am surprised I picked the same unit to go after them yet again. This is probably going to be like their 3rd or 4th charge at this point. The only reason I probably picked them is they've just been doing so good, I figure why press my luck? Just keep using the unit that's doing good. Now the Prussians are in firing line here while we are in assault column. So when we charge them, that actually gives us an advantage because we're charging in a dense column that kind of is designed to punch through the firing line of a line unit. So that's one reason when you melee, it's better to go to, even though you're not bringing as much firepower to bear, you're actually a better melee unit. And off they run, and they surrendered. Like I said, it just wasn't a good day for Prussia. And I'm sending these guys off in assault column to handle this line. And these guys are totally fresh, so I'm not. They're very fresh, and I'm not worried about them at all. And meanwhile, we'll start bringing some of these other units back. These guys have surrendered, so we're paroling them, and I guess they're going home to Berlin. And we're going to start setting up a group of squares around this victory objective hex here, because as you can see in the distance right here, here comes the cavalry. So we want to be all set up in square by the time they get here. So as you can see, once you figure out how to get across the bridges, this isn't really that difficult. Hit the guns first, that's your big priority. Got to get the guns. You don't want them pounding you at close range. So your first unit gets across the bridge, take a hard right, attack that artillery, and capture those guns. After that, you can turn your attention on the less than stellar Prussian infantry and give them the cold steel. Now these Prussians have been hit already, so they're already not in great shape. And they've decided to call it quits as well. They've had their fill of combat for the day. So we will parole them. They'll go back to Prussia, and we'll head back here to start setting up our little objective occupation square city here. Now it actually takes a decent amount of men. I think it's 500 men maybe or maybe it's 800 or 1,000. It might be a really high number, like 1,000, to actually occupy this objective. And you can see we still don't have possession of it. We actually need to get that third unit in here to fill our quota of men to take possession of the objective. So here come the horse. A little too late. The infantry has been run off. And this is why I say it's so important to really take these two infantry units out of action before the cavalry arrives, because now we are free to form square, and the cavalry can't do jack. They can't do anything about it because what options does cavalry have against units in square? In this game, none. You know, they won't charge units in square. And you know, they're what do they have, sabers, swords, they can't do any damage from afar. They don't have any I guess carbines or anything. So that's why it's so important to drive off the infantry, so they don't get to pull any combined arms BS on us, because if the cavalry came down and forced us into square, you have no choice but to stay in square as long as they're around. And then the infantry would be able to bring superior firepower against us, because obviously a square can only present 25% of its firepower to the enemy. Basically, whatever side of the square is facing the enemy. If the enemy's here, then this one. If the enemy's here, then this side. So an infantry unit in line will always beat an infantry unit in square in a firefight, which is why it's so important to get rid of those units beforehand. Now, these other 3 units have been released to us, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to just move them up in assault column, and just kind of methodically bring them across the bridges by clicking on the beginning of the bridge and the end of the bridge, then to the beginning of the next bridge and the end of the second bridge. Now, you can use something called waypoint movement if you just want to do this all in one shot. And basically what that means is, how you hold down right click to put down your green arrow. Well, if you hold down Control on your keyboard and then click right click and click it on the beginning of the first bridge, then the end of the first bridge, and then the beginning of the second bridge, and then the end of the second bridge, and just hold Control and just click those 4 locations. Let me pause the video for 1 second here, and then just click those 4 locations. You're dropping a series of movement waypoints, and the unit you don't have to actually do it manually like I did with the first 3 units. The only reason I did it manually with the first 3 units is, like I said, timing is kind of crucial to how you do this. But there's no more of that going on, so you could just use waypoint movement and hold down Control and click on those important locations: the beginning of the first bridge, the beginning of the second bridge, then the beginning of the first bridge, the end of the first bridge, then the beginning of the second bridge, and the end of the second bridge. Click on those 4 locations, and the unit will follow those waypoints and move automatically across the bridge. It's basically like an automatic way of doing what we did manually. So the unit will follow those waypoint movements as opposed to just doing what I said the AI would do if you just tried to move to this location, which is, it will try to cross the river, get to the river, realize it can't cross the river, and then try to make its way to the bridge. So that's another way you could do it, is by holding Control and using waypoint movement. Like I said, I don't usually do that because this is only a handful of units here, so I'm perfectly happy to just kind of methodically control it myself. All right, so back to the game here. It says, "What a disgrace. General Gerard has been wounded seriously trying to drive your men to attack the Prussian troops harder." Could I have attacked them any harder? I mean, really, how much harder could I have attacked these Prussians? I cleared them out in 10 minutes. I don't know how much harder I could have gone. No, I'm just kidding. That's just a message you're going to get no matter how good or how bad you're doing. This message is going to come about halfway through the scenario. And Gerard, there's nothing you can do to save Gerard. It's written into the scenario that he gets wounded. No matter what you do, he's going to come forward and just kind of fall off his horse. We need to take revenge. Order the 11th line to join you and drive the Prussians away from the river crossing. Well, I already drove the Prussians away from the river crossing, but we're going to bring the 11th line up anyway and just set up some more squares just to have all our units in one spot here. All right, there we go. And as you can see, we now have possession of the objective. We have our little objective timer. We're in 100 points, and I believe it's 100 points every minute. And again, I'm just bringing these units up. And I don't remember whether I used waypoint movement to get across the bridges. I might have. As you can see, the cavalry, what do we do? Now we're out here, we're supposed to charge, but we can't. So unfortunately, we're going to have to kill some Prussian horses here. I like horses. I don't want to have to do it, but, they're leaving me no choice. So basically this cavalry is going to sit here, and once in a while it'll come forward and kind of sit here, get shot up and run back, and then another unit will come forward and get shot up and run back. It's still an infantry unit over here, but they're getting bombed on by my artillery. As you can see, a couple of men just dropped. So I think they're all out of piss and vinegar, so to speak. I don't think they have any interest in getting back involved with this fight, and that's why I wasn't really so concerned with going after them. I just kind of had a feeling that they wouldn't get involved again. So once again, all the exciting part of this scenario is over. We've captured the objective, and now we just sit here racking up points. So, like I said, it's a tricky scenario, but not an overly difficult one once you know how to get around the kind of weird passing issues. So, okay, now our units are coming up here. And our units are sitting here, and while they're just sitting here, you know, they're recovering some of their fatigue and rallying. As you can see, it says rallying right there, which means they're recovering their morale and their fatigue. Helps to have an officer nearby for that. And you can see by the little icon right here, we have our objective. That's your quick at-a-glance look to make sure you have an objective. It's just always to make sure that you have the French colors, or if you're playing the Allies, that you have the Allied colors, and that's how you know you have the objective. Look how nicely these men have formed square. Boy, they're well trained. Got your front rank kneeling, got your back rank standing. Well disciplined men. I like it. You can see they're level 5 seasoned, level 6 regulars. You know, they're okay troops. And here come the cavalry, pressing their luck yet again. All right, so we're going to now bring these units across the bridge. And same thing, I'm clicking on the end of the bridge, and then I'm switching to the next unit. I'll bring them up to the beginning of the bridge, and the unit behind that, I'll bring them up to where the previous unit was. And just kind of follow the leader across the bridge. And no, these units didn't just disappear. I sent them back to Prussia. So they hopped the nearest wagon caravan, and off they went. Okay, so now we're going to move these guys up to the next part of the bridge here. And like I said, this is how you get around the passing issues, by manually controlling the units and kind of manually moving them across the bridge by using the beginning of the bridge, the end of the bridge, beginning of the bridge, end of the bridge, right here. And yeah, it's that easy. It's that stupid, but it's that easy. The sound of French cannon bombing away over here. And we can see the horse are jogging out for some more. Or trotting, I guess what the word would be for horses. Trotting out for some more. Don't these fools know we have muskets? We can shoot at them if they come close? Damn, just look at those horses drop. My goodness. Keep firing, man. We'll be dining on horse meat tonight. Oh, look at that boy. He just took a fall right there. And here come the rest of our troops, saddling over the bridges. The funny thing is historically this attack was also a complete failure. You know, this Hulot's brigade here did not get across the bridges any better than anybody who had came before them did. So we're just gonna make a little city of squares here. And that seemed like a good place to place them, because they're kind of right between the cavalry and the artillery now. You know, now that it occurs to me, I have enough battalions here that I could have made a tic-tac-toe board out of the squares, had I wished. Or maybe a hopscotch board. I could have made a hopscotch board. You know, there's all sorts of little designs you can make with a bunch of squares. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It's not that difficult of a scenario once you learn how to get across the bridges. I will say that the Prussians were unusually pushovers in this particular playthrough. Usually I have to hit them repeatedly, the infantry I'm talking about at the beginning of the scenario. Usually I really have to hit them, and I usually end up wrecking these first 3 battalions in the process. But I don't care, because the main thing is to get that Prussian infantry out of the battle, and I'm perfectly willing to sacrifice my own troops to do so, because I know I have those next 3 battalions to come up. And as long as I can get 1 square into this objective to hold the cavalry at bay, I know I can bring the rest of those units up and form square and just occupy the objective. Again, we get a lot of points here, but you only need 1,000 points to get a major victory. So you really can afford to kind of smash your first 3 battalions to tiny bits, so to speak, if that's what it takes to drive the Prussian infantry away. Like I said, in this particular playthrough, the Prussians were, you know, kind of pushovers, and they really just kind of dropped into my lap like grapes. You know, isn't always that easy. I've played the scenario many times, and most of the time it's harder than that. Most of the time I have to, you know, hit them repeatedly with those first 3 battalions to actually make them break or run or surrender before I accomplish that. And yeah, like I said, sometimes I end up getting my first 3 battalions smashed and routed, or, you know, pretty much useless. But as long as I can hang on to 1 and form square near that objective, you're able to safely bring up those other 3 battalions and occupy the objective. You know, so yeah, the real tricky part of this is actually just getting across the bridge. And now that you actually see that that's actually pretty easy to do, the main thing is at the beginning of the scenario, remember, just hide behind the trees long enough to make sure that that Prussian artillery battery actually ends up deploying and firing at whatever they're firing at. I still have never figured out what the heck they're firing at, but, you know, just make sure they're not pointing at you. And then you just kind of ninja sneak your way across the bridges, you know, ever so quietly, so to speak. And, you know, when you get to the last bridge and you start making your way across, by all means, click this double quick button right here and get them running, because that's about the time that the Prussian forces will start reacting. So you want to get across that bridge fast before the artillery has a chance to turn on you. Turn right and just charge into them and take every gun. Just mash the charge button right here. Just mash it over and over again as fast as your little left click finger can mash it. And you won't have to stop and reform after every gun is captured. You'll just continue right on to the next gun. So yeah, turbo mash that charge button and take every gun. You'll probably get countercharged by that other Prussian battalion, but they may also countercharge one of the guns in an attempt to recapture them. If they do that, that's even better, because then they will stop to reform and you can charge them while they're reforming, which is what I did. So, okay, we got about 3 minutes left in the scenario here. And we have established our bridgehead. So the rest of the 4th Corps can now begin crossing the river here, which did not happen historically, but we're in Bizarro land where, you know, the French actually got across the river. And we have 1,800 points, so way over what we need for a major victory. You only need 1,000 points for a major victory. We're damn near double that at this point. So, like I said, you can afford to really smash up your first few battalions in order to get rid of that Prussian infantry before the cavalry arrives. And even if you have to wait until you bring some more battalions over from the other side of the river to actually have enough men to occupy the objective, you know, because it's 100 points a minute, and you only need 1,000 points for a major victory. I mean, you can literally capture this objective in the last 10 minutes of the scenario, and, you know, you'll probably still get enough points for a major victory. Here, we captured it very early on, and, you know, as a result, we extracted a lot more points from it. But, you know, you can afford to have things not go totally as smoothly as it did here, and still win the scenario. Just be determined. Once you get across that river, just be merciless and hit those Prussians as hard as you can and as fast as you can, because you really want to drive that infantry off before the cavalry has a chance to play a factor in this battle, because you don't want to have that combined arms rock paper scissors game played against you, and you only have rock. That's just not fun. Rock, paper, scissors is great fun when you're the one doing it, but it's not so much fun when you're on the receiving end of it. So the key is to make sure that they cannot play that rock, paper, scissors game against you, and basically all they have is the cavalry, and the cavalry can't do anything against you while you're in square. So we're about to wrap it up here. We're about 10 seconds away. And there it is. Here it comes. Let her rip. There we go. So, again, very small battle. We only inflicted 300 casualties on the enemy. We only took 111 casualties of ourselves. Barely qualifies as a skirmish. The most important thing, though, is we got that objective and got our points. So, as you can see, tricky scenario. If you don't understand how to get by the pathing issues, it can be a nightmare trying to get your troops across the river. Once you do, though, it's pretty straight ahead. You're just going to kind of put your football helmet on and get into your three-point stance and just barrel through everything on the other side of the river there. Get the guns first. The guns are the most important thing, because if they turn on you and start firing on you, they're going to do a heck of a lot of damage at close range like that. So yeah, get the guns, and then after you get the guns, make sure to really, really press home your attack on the infantry, and get them to run off, surrender, retreat far enough away that they're not going to be a factor again, whatever. Just so long as they're gone by the time the cavalry gets there, so that they can't play that combined arms rock, paper, scissors game against you. Yeah, that's pretty much all there is to that scenario. So I hope I explained the pathing issues well enough. If you have any questions about something specific, by all means, ask them in the comments, and I'll try and be a little more specific about whatever it is you didn't understand. But it's pretty easy. You just have to manually kind of control your units and, use the front and the back of the bridges as waypoints to get your units to march across them without barreling into the river, so to speak. So don't just click on the destination at the end the end result of the destination you want them to be at, because then the AI will just try to take the straightest route to that. And like I said, the AI doesn't know it can't cross the river. It will try to cross the river, and only when it gets in the river will the AI realize that it can't cross the river, and that's when it will start to head to the bridge, and that's how things can become messy, and you don't want that. So just remember to manually control every unit and use the beginnings and the ends of the bridges as waypoints. Before you start moving them up to the bridges, keep an eye on that Prussian artillery. Make sure it deploys is firing off, towards Wavre. If you ever figure out what it is those Prussian cannon are firing on, please post it in the comments and let me know, because I have gone over and searched Wavre. I've searched that whole area in front of like Le Grand Pont, and there's just nothing there. I don't know what those Prussians are shooting at. So if anybody ever wants to, ever figures out what those Prussian cannon are shooting at the beginning of the scenario, please tell me. I would love to know. So, all right, guys, I think that's pretty much it for the scenario, and hopefully it answered some questions and helps you guys figure out how to beat it. Take it easy.